When silence wears a face, twilight gathers over a plain of reeds. The wind moves first, threading through tall grass and the cords of armor. The sound is faint, not a clatter, but a murmur, as if the field itself were whispering. Then a figure rises, lacquered plates dark as ink, the crest of a crescent moon glinting above a visor. Beneath it, no expression, only breath behind iron. To the soldiers of medieval Japan, the first warning of battle was not sight, but sound. 1,000 suits of armor breathing in rhythm, silk cords tightening, masks exhaling through narrow vents. The field became an instrument before it became a grave. They called it Yoroi no Ne, the voice of armor. It spoke in rustle, creak, and pulse. To wear a helmet was to carry a second mind. The head disappeared. In its place rose something louder than speech, a presence shaped by metal, lacquer, and imagination. In this world, sound and silence were weapons. The warrior who mastered both could conquer without being seen. The voice of iron. Before samurai polished swords to mirrors, they forged helmets to sing. Early kabuto were patchwork shells of riveted plates, hammered thin by the village smith. He worked barefoot on clay, striking iron until it remembered water. When the tone rang clear, he cooled it in salted river water. The hiss, a prayer. Every plate held a trapped breath of its maker. To join many plates was to join many breaths, a chorus hardened into form. Thus the helmet was born as a resonance chamber. Warriors believed a good kabuto would hum like a bell when struck, turning violence into vibration. Excavated Muromachi helmets show deliberate fluting along the bowl, both to deflect impact and to amplify tone. What we hear today as artistry, they heard as invocation. A silent helm was a dead one. The shikoro, the overlapping neck guards, added rhythm. As the wearer moved, plates clicked softly, a cadence between footfalls. Commanders could identify troops by their rustle, as musicians know each drum by timbre. Battles sounded like storm songs, bells of horses, whistles of arrows, whispers of armor bending toward motion. Before combat, a warrior touched the crown of his helmet and muttered, "Kaji Kaji Rayon." "Fire! Fire, lion!" The chant summoned the deity Fudo Myo-o to dwell in steel, turning noise into protection. In a land where metal was both scarce and sacred, every echo carried spirit. Smiths purified their forges with sake and salt. After finishing, they struck the rim 3 times, a heartbeat of gratitude. Across provinces, designs varied. 8-plate bowls from Haruta, 12-plate from Myochin, each with its own resonance. Daimyo tested a new helm by tapping it with bamboo. If it answered low and steady, it was content. If sharp and brief, angry. To wear an angry helmet invited restless dreams. Some armorers engraved a single hidden character under the brow, SAE purity, mu, void, or musical notes marking the pitch the bowl produced. Before battle, soldiers touched that spot with a thumb and listened for courage. A diary from 1478 recalls, "Arrows came like rain. I heard my own helm answer them, not with fear, but with tone. Even the iron wished to live." When dusk fell over abandoned fields, villagers said they still heard the hum of armor under the wind. They called it Yoroi no Ne no Kami, the god of lingering sound. To the old smiths, forging was dialogue. The hammer questioned, the metal replied. When the two fell into harmony, the helmet became a teacher. Its lesson was simple, to be strong without shouting. The mask that breathes. The battlefield grew louder, and the samurai answered by hiding their faces. The menpo, the armored mask, emerged to shape both identity and discipline. Leather hardened with lacquer, later hammered iron painted red inside to echo the warmth of flesh. Vents beneath the nose hissed with each breath. Enemies called it the breath of ghosts. Masks deepened voices. In the thunder of muskets, command traveled through sound. Soldiers learned each leader's resonance, his voice curved by the chamber of metal, part echo, part authority. To wear a mask was to remove the self that hesitated. Behind iron, emotion was absorbed. The mask carried rage so the mind could remain still. Armorers sculpted faces as moral statements, fierce scowls for courage, serene smiles for wisdom, fox grins for cunning. Inside the chin, small inscriptions whispered reminders. Remember compassion, breathe once, strike once. The warrior inhaled those words before battle, exhaled silence. The Myokin family polished masks until they moved with the pulse. They called the scent of forge-scorched iron Kaji no Iki, the breath of fire. When the warrior's breath joined it, the two lives became one. In fog and smoke, recognition came by rhythm. Commanders led through the sound of their masks, not their faces. A whisper could rally regiments. A chronicle of 1577 describes Takeda riders moving through mist, torches flickering on snarling visors, breathing in unison until the fog itself seemed to chant. When peace came, masks became quieter, lacquered black, lips gilded thin as calligraphy strokes. The hissing vents were sealed with silver. Breath no longer escaped. It rested within. What once frightened now reminded. The samurai had learned to hear stillness itself. The helmets that lied. When war turned to strategy, deception became design. Helmets grew theatrical, antlers of gilt wood, spirals of bronze, shells of lacquer. Each crest, Maydate, was a word in the grammar of intimidation. A horn meant ferocity, a half-moon divine favor, a shell endurance. Commanders chose them as poets choose metaphors. Some kabuto concealed vents that whistled as the wearer rode, imitating voices so the enemy heard a crowd where one man moved. Others used false joints so the crest trembled slightly, a mirage of motion. The armor lied beautifully, yet each design followed spiritual geometry. The central opening, Teihen, symbolized the channel of divine breath. Whispering vents were lungs of faith, cooling both head and mind. For the samurai, the danger was not heat, but distraction. The helmet disciplined breath as much as it deflected arrows. During Sekigahara, chroniclers recorded fog so dense that soldiers swore helmets spoke on their own. The saying survived, "Even armor gossips before dawn." To master war was to master rumor, both metal and human. When peace hardened into the Tokugawa order, deception became memory. Horns and crests turned into family emblems. The lie turned to lineage, noise to heritage. The whispering helmets of Edo. Peace brought silence, yet the armor still spoke. Edo period Gusoku suits gleamed like sculpture, lacquer for devotion, not defense. Every household kept one, polished before New Year to honor ancestors. Children bowed before it as before a shrine. The helmets of this era murmured only when lifted. Silk cords sighed, plates rustled faintly. A dry, papery tone the old called the breath of loyalty. Monks invited to bless these relics said the sound was thin as incense smoke. Armorers became calligraphers in metal. Every rivet followed Buddhist numerology. Every ring of lacquer obeyed moral proportion. Sound itself turned symbolic. 3 clicks for the 3 treasures. 5 folds for the 5 elements. Lineage was rhythm rendered tangible. Visitors to Edo Castle wrote of corridors lined with helmets facing outward. When the wind entered, they whispered softly, a reminder that discipline, once learned, never truly stops speaking. At night, guards claimed the helmets shifted slightly toward the moonlight, like heads inclined in meditation. Even in an age of peace, the samurai's armor reminded him that vigilance was the other face of serenity. The whispering metal did not recall war. It remembered a tension. A century later, the samurai class dissolved, but the helmets remained. Families kept them on low stands, facing the doorway. It was said that a kabuto remembered its bearer's breathing, that to polish it was to greet an ancestor. In a Kyoto temple storeroom, one Edo helmet still rests on faded silk. The lacquer is cracked, the horns dulled, but when the caretaker moves it, the cords sigh like fabric exhaling. He bows and says quietly, "Still awake. To the modern eye, it is artifact. To those who listen, it remains instrument. Its silence contains centuries of sound, the hum of plates, the whisper of air, the voice of iron." Some scholars suggest that the faint patina on ancient helmets is not rust alone, but oil from countless fingertips, layered through time, the residue of respect. The armor remembers touch as much as battle. When night settles over the temple, the caretaker swears the air around the helm changes. The stillness deepens, like the pause after a final note. He does not speak of ghosts, he speaks of attention, the same stillness the samurai once found between breath and strike. From forge to museum glass, the kabuto teaches a single lesson: every sound once had purpose, and every silence is earned. The samurai began by forging armor that sang against violence. They ended by polishing armor that sang of restraint. Between those two notes lies Japan's long meditation on form and spirit. The helmet's whisper is not memory, but invitation. To listen, to notice, to breathe as slowly as steel cools after fire. To hear an old helm breathe is to remember what its makers believed, that courage need not shout, and that stillness is also a kind of voice. Today, when the last museum light dims and the room fills with dust, the display cases reflect the faintest tremor of sound, the settling of silk, the expansion of air, the echo of something once alive. Perhaps it is only temperature. Perhaps it is the armor remembering the wind. Either way, the message endures. Strength is not the gleam of the blade. It is the patience that keeps it clean, the breath that keeps it steady, the silence that survives the noise. When you stand before a samurai helmet, you are not looking at war. You are looking at concentration, the sound of iron learning how to listen,